Okay. Once you've got all the specs from the client, you can start to go to work on what I call a more in-depth sketch. This is sort of phase 2 of my design process. I always start out with pencil and paper when I'm meeting with a client, and then after that, I go to a whiteboard or use something like a tablet or something like that to draw out a full out sketch. Now, in this case, it's a really limited sketch because we're only doing a one-page design. If this was a multi-page design where each different section had its own page, then I would have a different sketch on each page, or I would have a different page for each sketch. In other words, in this case, though, I just went to a whiteboard and I just started drawing things out. I always have a big thing referencing exactly what it is I'm working on. Then I draw out sort of a template for whatever that's going to be. And then I just start adding information to this. So let's break this down piece by piece. So I'm going to start out here with the header. And what I've decided to go with is they have a square logo for this company. They showed me the logo during my meeting. And so what I'm going to do is just put the square logo right there, front and center at the very top. Underneath that, we need some navigation because navigation in a one-page design is very, very critical because people need to know exactly where to click in order to go to these different sections. We will also need to add in navigational items at the beginning or end of each one of these sections so that it's easy for people to go back up to the top and continue clicking on that menu. We could also have the menu be quote-unquote sticky. And what that means is the menu would simply just follow you as you scroll down the page. That's nothing that we can necessarily convey inside of Photoshop, but that is something that we could convey to the developer in our notes or in some way, shape, or form in the design process. Now, section number 2. This is going to be the big welcome section that I referenced earlier, and it's going to have some sort of big photo. So I just put photo right here as kind of a subnote. I want a big photo right there, and then we're going to have like the tagline or welcome message right here, and then we're going to have a subheading. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can kind of see a little bit better what we're talking about. So I've broken down each section here, just giving myself some notes. The About section, basically what we're going to do, we're going to have this go the full width of the layout. We're going to have some text over here, the backstory of Two Trees Creative or something like that, or, just welcoming people again to the page. Then we're going to have links here to the 3, let's say, workers of Two Trees Creative. And so we'll have like the founder, the CEO guy, we'll have a couple of the designers right here. Now, what I can do, since there's only one page here, what I can do is just have the information that these people provide me about themselves, their Twitter handle, that kind of thing. I can have that pop up in like a rollover. So basically, I'm not showing anything right here, but when we get into the design process, I can start to add those different things or simply just tell the developer, hey, I've got this extra information. This is what I want to do with it. Let's see if we can make this work. The portfolio section. This is really abstract, but when I start to build it, it's going to look a lot more refined. So in this case, I just put portfolio here at the top. I've got these little arrows on either side of it, and those indicate navigation items because basically what I want is I want this to be a slider. Again, not something I can convey in Photoshop, but if I add those little tick marks on the end or some sort of navigational icon to the end of those, it'll be easy for the developer to understand exactly what I want out of this section right here. And of course, IMG stands for images, so I want images going the full width of the layout across. Then we've got our contact section. Remember, the client told us that we wanted Google Maps integration, so that's fine. I've got Google Maps over here on the left. I've also got space for a contact form. You see the little send button right there. And then at the bottom, we've got our footer. And so the footer here is always going to have this little back to top link. That's what that little section is right over there. Now let's scroll over here because you may have noticed that I've done some calculations over here. These are very rough calculations that I'm just estimating as to what size everything is going to be in the layout. I'm able to do this because I have done many, many different comps, and I know approximately what sizes work well with other sizes and things like that. If you're brand new to this, you might not know exactly how big or how small you need these to be, and that's okay. You can always just build as you go. What I do suggest that you do, though, is lay out some ground rules for yourself. So as you start to build things, you're going to notice, oh, my header's like 200 pixels. These sections that I'm building, they're all about 500 pixels or 600 pixels or something like that. Set yourself a design standard within your document so that it's easier to convey that to the developer so they know how to sort of standardize things so it looks a little bit more clean when the finished code is produced. So in this case, the header, I want it to be about 200 to 300 pixels. I'll probably settle somewhere in the middle. The welcome section, I want that to be really big and prominent. I want that to sort of cover the fold. In other words, they have to scroll past that in order to see anything else. So we want that to be between 600 and 700 pixels. Each section, I want those to be about 500 to 600 pixels, and then I've got about 100 pixels for the footer. So all of those calculated on the heavy side, 300, 700, 600, and then 100 combined, considering I have 3 sections. Let's zoom out here. I've got the About, Portfolio, and Contacts section, so 3. That means a total of 2,900 pixels total. Now, why do I need to know that? I need to know that because that's going to be how I start off my new document. Remember I said that I start off usually for a blog design around 2,000? Well, in this case, it's going to go over 2,000, and that's going to be different for every single website that you create. But doing this inside my sketch gives me a better idea of A, what the layout is going to look like, and B, how big of a document I need to create in order to get this project started.